Hey guys, Andrew Carruthers here, Education Director for Samvia. Now, one of the worst things is as you're working through a haircut, you get back, and then you get right here in the crown, and they've got that gnarly cowlick that just messes everything up back here. We want to share with you a couple of things that are really going to help you to manage what happens back here in the crown with swirls and cowlicks. Now, first and foremost, we believe that anything that's going to be challenging, whether it's a fringe or a cowlick or a neckline, those are things we really want to do most of our work dry because we want to see how the hair lays in its natural position. So first thing we would suggest is if you see in the consultation that they already have a really jumpy crown, maybe just section that whole area out, do the rest of the haircut wet, blow dry it, and then refine the crown into your shape rather than just going in wet and stretching the hair somewhere that it might not live after it's blow dried. So that's tip one, make sure you work with it dry. Tip two is teach your guest how to manage that cowlick through a great blow dry. Now, a couple of things are really going to help them out. One is going to be product, of course. So first, we want to soften up the hair a little bit. Redken's Satinwear 04 is a great choice because it's not going to get heavy in the hair, but it is going to give the hair some softness to break down the natural texture. Now, we just softened it up, but what we want to do now is give us some control. So that's where we get the Guts 10, and we could load up that crown with the Guts 10, especially if you want some volume in there. This is going to be a fantastic tool for you. Next, we want to grab our blow dryer and brush. Now, the Artist Series blow dryer is going to be a good choice for this one because of the extra heat and airflow. We need that little extra heat and airflow to affect the bonds. And then the Artist Series paddle brush is going to be great because the boar hair bristle in between the nylon bristles allows us to really grip and pull on the hair. A standard paddle brush isn't going to be most effective because it's not going to have enough tension. Now, of course, your guest might not have these tools at home. The technique is what's really important. What we want to do is we want to wrap dry from wet to dry, moving the hair back and forth. So we're going to set up the hair in one direction, and then we're going to slowly work it back the other direction by a technique where we open the brush and take a small section down and follow it with the nozzle of the dryer. So again, the brush opens up, pulls the next section down, and now we have all the hair going this way. We switch. Brush opens up, pulls the next section down. Now, we're going to be really careful and we're going to teach our guests this awesome technique. In reality, probably what they're going to do when they get home is this. And that's okay too. We're not looking for perfection, we're just looking to help them out. Now finally, after it's all dried, then we want to know how do we cut to manage the cowlick the best. Here's the hard thing, is if you get in there and you start chopping holes in it, if you create big holes in there with bundles of hair, it can actually make that cowlick worse. So we suggest a blending shear, especially a blending shear that has a really light removal of weight. Because if you take, again, big chunks out, if you have a big chunker tooth type blending shear, that potentially could create sprouts. The invisible end shear that we have takes very, very small pieces of hair away with each cut, so this is very ideal for this. Let's say the cowlick is here and it's splitting the hair this way. What we would suggest is come in underneath first, and you actually want to come in fairly close. Now again, don't do this with a regular blending shear. If you have a regular blending shear, you might actually have to do a little bit of a weaving technique. So when that blending shear cuts, it's not creating a lot of tiny little holes. With the Invisiblend, you can actually come in and cut because it removes so little hair with each cut. It's very, very fine. That much hair coming out isn't going to create a sprout, and then we want to work in a very orderly fashion up through the growth pattern and very gently take a couple more pieces away. As we do that, what we're doing is loosening up the texture. So again, as we hit it with a blow dryer, maybe some product, it has flexibility to it. It is so key to not overdo this step, because again, once you get a bunch of little hairs bundled together, that's where the cowlick's gonna really take off, and unfortunately, you're gonna be working against yourself. So again, number one, make sure that you're working with it dry in its natural state. Again, you don't want to cut this wet and then have a surprise after you start blow drying. Number two, make sure you teach your guest excellent blow drying skills so they can manage it best as they can at home. It's not going to be perfect, but we're looking for better, not perfect, right? And then number three is utilizing a blending shear with a really soft removal of weight so that you can soften up the texture, make it more pliable. Now, again, if you have a blending shear at home that isn't as soft as the Invisiblend, no problem, you can actually use a weaving technique. Think about baby lights, a really fine highlight with that blending shear, and then cut, and you'll have that same soft feel. But I know you want one of these, come on, I know. So guys, thank you so much for watching. We hope these tips are gonna help you out, help your guest out most importantly, because that builds great guest retention. If you have any comments, questions, anything, please leave them in that box below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers, Education Director for SAMVIA.